Okay, Assalamualaikum, and very good day, everyone. So we meet again for the uh, following chapter, which is findings and discussion. Now, let's say you have distributed the questionnaire. So with you is the raw data, okay, from your respondents, and the next question to ask yourself is, what should I do with this data? So you're going to analyze your data and you're going to do a bit of discussion because that will somehow helps you, number one, to answer your research questions, and number two, to let you know or to inform you whether or not your findings are actually they meet with the objectives of your studies. Okay. Now, in a report writing, the essential chapter would be the chapter you discuss on the findings of your instrument, which is this. Okay. And then in other words, findings is where you present the data of your questionnaire in a linear and non-linear form. Now, when we talk about when we talk about findings, we are actually talking about presenting your data in two forms. Number one is non-linear. Now, what do I mean by non-linear? Now, non-linear is basically your graphs, your chart, your table, any form of a diagram that can help people to understand better or can help the reader of your report to visualize the findings. And of course, right after that, you have your linear form, which is the explanation and the description of the graph or the chart or the table. Okay, so we have two forms here. So we have the linear and the non-linear and the linear. And a bit of addition to your findings to the linear part is where you add in a bit of discussion. You discuss the findings, and normally when we talk about discussing the findings, we will relate back to number one, the research question, number two, the objectives, and number three, the background study or the information that you have obtained in your literature review, the experts, previous research and studies, so on and so forth. Now let's just look some samples here. All right, so we have findings here: time spent on homework. So it is presented in a form of a bar chart. So this is what I call a nonlinear. All right, a nonlinear can be in a form of a chart, a graph, a diagram, a table, but let's just say we choose bar chart, like in this case. All right, and then you somehow describe the chart. Okay, for example, the first objective of the study is to examine the amount of time students spend on homework. Now you see, remember when I lectured on how to design your questionnaire, I mentioned in in my lecture or in my video lecture that you need to design your questionnaires based on the objectives of your study. It'll be much easier because when you do your analysis, you will begin with a sentence something like this, so that when I read, I understand better. Oh, I know section B covers for objective number one, which is good. So I know whatever questions that fall in that group or in that section, they all talk about the first objective of your study. So you describe first, and when you describe the data, it can be in two forms. Either you can basically describe um, uh, uh, the data itself. For example, in this case, we are looking at the time spent on homework, so we're using minutes. That means we're using time measurement. But you can also use in a form of percentage. But I just want to remind you guys here, when you do this, sometimes you must know that not every question you have to use the actual measurement. Sometimes you just have to use percentage. For example, if let's say you are describing the gender of your respondents, well, basically we have males and females. So it's it will be better for us to use percentage because you can visualize who responded more to your question. For example, if I were to use 57% of my respondents are males and the remaining are females. So I know 57 is more than half. So therefore, majority of my respondents are males instead of females. But if I were to use amount of number in a form of a number, 23 of my respondents are males, whereas 17 are females. So I cannot somehow, it cannot, well, this is just my personal opinion, but it does not help me to visualize who has the majority number. So I think that depends on the question. Yeah, so you decide whether or not to use percentage or the actual number. Okay, so this is another description, but as you can see, this is just to describe the bar chart. There is no form of discussion here. The same thing happens for sample number one. Okay, and just a form of descriptions, but there is no discussion. I would like to bring you to the third sample. Now this is where you have the graph or the chart, and then you have the description. Now as you can see here, it's mentioned, but this is a bit covered up, because of my video on this site. So but you can actually refer to the notes that is available. Towards the end of that description, the author relates the discussion to the background study. Okay, so you can look at the sample on how, I guess, the sample number 2 is somewhat can be considered or regarded as um, on how to do the findings. All right, so you describe, like in this case, 66.7% smoking concession, 23% on this and that, and 2015. But towards the end, as you can see, this difference suggests blah blah blah. The respondents thinking that only vaping, blah blah blah. Now this difference is actually taken from the background study. So remember, when you do your background study, I always ask you to find research, to find experts opinions, to find information that talks about the objectives of your study. Now this is where you're going to relate your data. Let's say expert says A in your objective, in your background study, but when you carried out the survey, you realize that your respondents responded B. So you may want to discuss on this. Why there's a difference? Or if expert says A in background study, your result or your analysis also is A. Therefore, it corresponds with the one that you have found in your background study. So these are the things that you may want to mention in your findings and discussion section. I guess that will be it for now. That's all. Thank you.